Hi, I'm Sean Bland of the Art Center of Wilmington Island. We are so glad to offer a way to stay connected and continue creating art. Check out our list of art at home kits for both kids and adults, available curbside service and mail order. Keep visiting our Facebook page and website to see the latest options. We will post them as quickly as we can make them. Each kit contains everything you need to complete a beautiful painting at home: pre-sketched canvas, an inspiration picture, paint, brushes, and a palette, and a link to watch a tutorial to follow along. All you will need to provide would be the paper towels and a wrench cup for your brushes. Now that you have your supplies, it's time to watch a step-by-step tutorial. Time to paint. Our sketch of a crab is waiting for us to paint. Now we're going to start with our background space, and we're going to use a big sponge brush. We're going to go in and we're going to paint our entire background first. We're going to wash right over the drawing, and then we'll come back to the drawing. I'm going to start by loading my brush with white paint. I'm going to add a little bit of the yellow ochre into it, just a little bit so it's not white. And then I'm going to go in and start painting. I'm just going to do this a fun kind of brush stroke where you can see the different areas of white and yellow ochre that come out. It's not going to be a solid white. It'll have some yellow ochre coming in some places and some in another because of the way I'm going to paint it. If you want yours to be just white, you can certainly do that. If you want it to be a flat surface with the paint, you can certainly do that. But what I'm doing is I'm using the brush and going around all the edges, but I'm over painting the sketch, and you can still see it up underneath and just brushing it. I'm going in between the areas so that I can paint over the crab, but I can still see my lines, so I'm not gonna have any problems when I get ready to paint the detail. I'll still be able to see it. But I wanna make sure that as I paint, that I fill up all the canvas, and I wanna make sure that I go especially in between the crab's legs, so that way when I paint his legs, then I won't have to go back and fill in any spaces. But as I paint, I'm just using a light coat of white. It does have some yellow ochre in it. I'm not painting it evenly. I'm just moving the paintbrush around and creating sort of a beachy look for him to be on. If you want yours done in a way that's very solid or even, you can certainly do that. But as long as you overpaint enough that you fill in all the spaces in between the legs, that way when you paint the legs, then your canvas will be finished and you don't have to worry about filling in any spaces. So I just overpainted the whole canvas all the way around the area. I didn't go right in the middle because it's not necessary, but I did make sure that I filled in everything outside that main shape with this sponge brush. So after that, you just wash that off and dry it and then put it aside. We won't need that anymore. Now that the background is finished, we're gonna move on over and start our detail. So we're gonna get a brush that's a little bit smaller. We're going to use a flat brush, and we're gonna begin painting in his basic shape, and then we'll enhance it with different colors. So to begin with, I'm gonna use a turquoise green and a cerulean blue, and I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna work on his body shape at the middle section first, and just use the whole width of the brush to start filling in the crab's shape. Now, each time I go over and pick up paint, I'm gonna pick up a little different color. It'll be wet so that I can still blend, but it will be interesting because I pick up a different color. So the first time I used turquoise and cerulean blue. The second time I picked up a little bit more turquoise. I'm just using the whole width of the brush. I'm letting every one of my brush strokes show to create interest. Next time I go over, I'm picking up a little bit of the medium green and I'm adding that. And I'm really not blending, I'm just laying down the colors on top of each other. And I'm following the shape. And you can see that I can go, each time that I use my paint up, I can go pick up a different color and just lay it in. I'm using the flat part of the brush just to add the paint to the space so that it fills up all of the canvas space. And that way I can really accent the color and make it really stand out, because I'm not blending it too much. I'm just laying it on there. I'm putting it real close. I'm overlapping the colors so they do blend some, but I'm not doing it a lot. I'm just doing it minimally so that I can cover the canvas. Gonna add a little bit of yellow ochre next just to get some of that color in. I'm not washing or wiping off my brush. I just keep adding a different color in so that it changes, but I'm letting all the brush strokes really create a texture that is fun and interesting. Picking up a little bit more of the turquoise green over here and going all the way over. So now I have the basic shape. I'm not working with the little zigzag areas yet. This is just the basic in the middle. Those I'll do with more of a red color when we get all of the basic shapes completed. So there's the basic shape for him, for the middle round section. So now I'm gonna go do the legs exactly the same way, just filling in colors. I'm gonna use the same colors I used in here, basically. In some places, I'm gonna add white to it to make it lighter. So I'll start with that so you can see blue and white. I'm gonna start in this shape here and basically just make it round. I'm gonna use the full width of the brush and lay it down. The first time I did it, I went around like a C shape, just making the letter C. And then I went opposite that way to make a backwards C and connected those together. And then basically I have the shape that I need. I'm gonna add a little bit more white to it, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna make a C shape, and then I'm gonna pick up more paint, and I'm gonna make another backward C shape, and those are now connected together. I'm gonna continue that as I make each one of the knuckles. I'm gonna make a C shape, and then I'm gonna make a backward C to connect with it. And then when I get up to the shapes that are longer, they're more oval than round, I'll change up that just a little bit and use the toe of the brush. So now I'm creating a line, and I'm just turning the brush and turning my wrist so that it makes a circle along the end, and now they're all connected together. Each one of these have to be done this way, so I'm gonna move over and do the one on the other side that matches it. And each time I go over, I'm just dipping into a different color. Sometimes I'll add white to it, and then sometimes I'll add turquoise or the green, and maybe even a little bit of the yellow ochre. But I'm taking my brush and I'm making these have different joints or sections. So there's the first one, and here's a second one, and you can see how easy it is just to connect them together. Now there'll be other details that I'll use to finish up with some other colors, but right now I'm just making the basic shape. So on this one, you'll see I'm making a line that's that long oval that connects to the three smaller circles. So I just twist my brush, twist my elbow around, and I get the shape outline first, and then I just fill it in the center. So now I have two symmetrical shapes on each side. Now I'm gonna go to the second one. I'm gonna pick up one of the colors. I'm actually just gonna lay down my brush flat and push it into the palette so that my line is very thin and fine. And I could make a point here. So this is more like a triangle on the end instead of a circle. So I just make it into a shape that has a point on the end of it, like a triangle. So I have that one as my first one. I'll go ahead and repeat and do this one just like it so that you can see it again. I'm gonna take my brush, dip it in the turquoise and the cerulean blue, mix that up, and then just lay it down into the paint palette so that I can get a flat edge on my brush. And then I go in and I can make the tip like a triangle shape. And that'll be the first one that's sort of pointed. And then I'll make the second one that's attached to that. I'll just add a little bit more cerulean to the brush, and then I added white to it. And I'm gonna make the shape that looks like a circle. So I'm gonna start the C shape, and then I'm gonna make the backwards C shape, and then my next shape is made. I'll do the same thing here. I'll make a C shape, and then make a backwards C, and then I have my next knuckle. Then I'll go up and do that again. This time I'll pick up a little bit more turquoise, because each time I'm trying to make a display of colors that are really fun to look at and really make his body pop out. So I'm gonna make a C shape here, a letter C shape, and then I'm coming around and make a backwards C, and then there it is. So you can see all of those are symmetrical. Now I'll add more white and change the look, and we'll go more into making the shape that's an oval that's connected to the circle. So I'll use the toe of the brush to make the line on both sides, and then I'll twist it around to make it curved on the end, and I'll do that on both edges, and then fill in what's left over in the middle. I'll do the same thing to the other side. I'll make a line and a line, and then I'll turn a circle, and then I'll turn a circle on the other end, and then all the rest of the paint goes right in the center. So every time I turn my brush, different colors come out, because I have all of those colors layered up on my brush. Now I'll come and start the next one that's pointed. So I'm gonna use turquoise. This time I'm gonna add the red into the turquoise, and it'll be a really dark color that's almost a purple. So this time it's turquoise green and that crimson red. Crimson red is like a burgundy kind of color. It's not like the CAD red or the stop sign red. It's very different. So I'm making a pointed shape there first on both of them, just a shape that's pointed. I'm using just the toe of the brush so that I can round out the shape at the top. So it's pointed on the end and then rounded, pointed on the end and then rounded. So now I'm going to make all the circular joints. Here is, actually this one is connected, so we'll make that and that the same. Then I'll go, this is more like an oval that's connected here, like an oval shape. So it doesn't have a circle in this one, it's like an oval. So use your brush, just twist it around, and you'll make the edge of the oval, the edge of the oval, and then twist around and finish up with a circle on the end. Then we've got a longer oval. So I'm gonna add white to it. I'm gonna go around, draw the shape, twist, draw the line and twist, draw the line and twist, and then there we have it. Draw the line and twist, draw the line and twist, and you just connect them together and then fill in the middle. Don't worry about details and connecting everything. We can certainly do that when we add more of our detail and colors. Now I'm picking up the cerulean blue, and I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna accent the edge of this one with a bright blue cerulean that really makes him so colorful. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I'm putting a line for a thin edge, and then I'm fattening it up. I'm making it fatter as I go in towards the middle. And then I can have a joining of colors that come in from here to there. now that I've got the four on, well, I've got the three claws on the bottom, I can start with the fourth one that comes up from the middle. So I'm gonna go back and use my dark turquoise green color. I'm gonna start and make a very long oval. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side, make a very long oval. Just use the line of the brush to draw with and circle around and then use the line again. And then we want to make sure that that one goes up underneath this claw. We've got overlapping, so we're putting that same color up underneath the pointed one. Okay, then we'll change and add white to it. And after we add the white, we'll go in and make a smaller oval that we connect to it. We'll make a smaller oval. We'll start by drawing a line and then curving it and then coming back up and draw another line and curving it and filling in the middle. Okay, and then it has points on the end. We're gonna do that with the darker color. So I'm gonna do turquoise and red. So I'm gonna flatten out my brush. I'm gonna take it and really flatten it out once I put the red in with the turquoise. I'm gonna flatten it out into the palette. Then I have a point on the end of it, so that way I can draw, I can keep my point and then just fill in the fatter space as I come in towards the claw. So I've got a point and then a fatter space, a point and then a fatter space, and now those are all connected. Okay, so now we've got this great big gigantic claw left to do. So to do that, we're gonna use white with the color that's on my brush. I'm just gonna go in. I'm gonna start with this big section right here and fill that in. I'm just finding the shape first. I'm going around my little red area that are outlined so that I can see where they are. I'm not gonna paint over them. I wanna keep them so I can make sure that I know how big my red points are that I'm gonna paint for my detail last. So in here, I'm just filling up the blue space. And it's symmetrical, so the same shape goes on both sides. It's blue towards the middle or the inside, and then it's gonna get more of a yellow ochre towards the outside. So I'll do that now by taking and actually washing my brush off in the water, and then I'll dry it off. Doesn't have to be perfectly clean, but just get it enough so that when you pick up the yellow ochre, I'm gonna add a little white into it so it's not too bright, and I'm gonna go in and actually make a line of that yellow ochre that goes right around his shell. That yellow ochre is gonna continue up and around. So while I have that on, I'll just keep drawing. I'm gonna add a little bit of the red into it as I move on closer toward this side. You can see how I'm just using the edge of the brush to make the line and then filling up on the inside. So now I've got a little yellow ochre and a little bit of the red, so the yellow ochre is not too bright. I'm gonna do that on the other side. I'm gonna take the yellow ochre, load it on the brush, go in from where I stopped making the blue, go in, put a point up toward the end, and I'm just making my brush go where I need it to go. I'm laying it down flat and filling up the space, and then I am turning it on its side, and I'm making a line, and then I'm following the edge, and then once I get both lines done, I'm filling up the center. I change colors as often as I want to so that I can keep the thing very interested and colorful. Sometimes I'm adding more red, sometimes I'm adding more yellow ochre, but basically I'm using this brush to make an edge so that I can have all the shapes created individually so that you can see how many parts he's made up of. So once I get the yellow ochre ones filled in, then it's time to go back and work on the part that is more reddish. So I'm gonna use more red than yellow ochre. And so I just add more red to the brush. I'm filling in the space that makes the pincher, so it's definitely pointed at the end. If you need to practice making the points, just go over on your palette, push the brush into the paint, and then flatten out your brush. And then once you start using the edge, you can see how much of a point you can get. So you just need to practice and see how much pressure you put and how thin or how wide you need it to be. So you might want to practice over there before you come over here and lay your brush down. If you push your brush down, you're going to get a wide shape, and if you barely touch the canvas, you're going to get a thinner shape. So the pressure in how you handle the brush is very, very important. And once you fill in the space where the pinchers are, then you're ready to move and keep filling in the rest of that particular claw. But that's red, which is the crimson red, and then it had a little bit of yellow ochre in it because that's what we were using before we got to that space. Okay, so since I have the red on my brush, I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna start shaping in these red points that are on the crab's center section where we left so that we could find those shapes again and paint them. Now use that very toe of your brush to go in and just find the points first. So go in, make a line, and then make an opposite line, and you can see how many points you can get just by following the drawing that you have. But if it's very easy if you focus on the point of the brush, the toe just coming in and making a line, and then do an opposite line, and then you've got a shape that looks like an arrow or a triangle. And by the time that you have gone through this whole process of painting, you will have learned how you can use this brush to get any size shape that you want if you just twist it and make it go where you tell it to go. Choke up on the point, choke up on the brush. That way you can be in control of its size and how big each one of the points are. Right now I'm just doing it with a combination of the crimson red and the yellow ochre that's on my brush. It really makes the crab pop out against the greens that are already on there. So the colors really stand out, and that's what you're looking for. You want it really fun and interesting. You've got several more on this side, so you can do those exactly the same way. You just, once you get started, just continue the pattern. You can do it on the left side, and then on the right side, you just make a point, and then pull the two lines together. Okay, so now we have a lot of repetition going in, so that is a very good look. We're going to go on in this area and put a few more. You can see your edges, you can see your lines, you can see where you need to fill in right in the center. And so now it's continuous all the way across. We'll come back and edge in some blue in a minute, but once we have the red all the way across, then we're all set with that basic shape, just filling up the canvas. While you have that red on, it's really important that you add that to other parts. So I like to just take the brush and just find some places. Literally, you're just gonna mark like C's or like apostrophes, where you just go in and lay down the color so it has a repetition of those shapes and colors throughout the whole painting. So now I've done that with the red. I'm gonna now do it with the yellow ochre just a little bit. do the same thing, go pretty much in the same area, just to add a little color. I can just go around and just hit it with the yellow ochre, just right in the same neighborhood as I did with the red, and you can see how that repetition really works. Now it's gone all the way around. Now I'll wash out the yellow ochre. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up the space that I need here for the blue. I'm gonna add mostly white to the brush and then just pick up a little bit of blue. I want this one to be a little bit different than the others because the claw's different since it's the pincher one. So I'll come in around that way and fill in that space. I'm using the line of the brush for the basic part of the shape and then using the flat part to lay it down. I'm gonna let it move right into the red area. So all that space is filled in. And move all the way to the blue. Overlap somewhat. Same thing here, just open up the shape, it's circular, it just moves around. And then that's lighter. I'm gonna wash out the brush and then I'm gonna go darker. I'm gonna go with the alizarin crimson and the turquoise green. It's almost a black. I'm gonna come in and make this edge, once again, repeating the same technique by using the line of the brush, the toe of the brush to make the edge, and then repeating that with the same brush stroke several times until it all is complete, till it's filled up. Now with that dark color, I'm gonna accent most of the corners or the lines of the crab. If I do that, it'll make him look round instead of flat, because if you put the darker color on the outside edge and you leave it lighter in the center, then it will give the roundness that he needs. So I'm gonna work that in this area. It will be darker. And then I'm gonna do that on some of the legs, and it will certainly round out those as well. Just adding a little bit of the darker color in the edge areas pretty much throughout most of the legs. You don't have to hit every one of them, but you can certainly notice the difference when you look at how important that dark color is against all the light colors. And then you've got all the medium values that you've used throughout the painting. So then it really sets the flatness of the, it really helps the crab not have any flat areas. Everything is rounded. Now I'm just using it for some accent lines in some places where the red points are. And you can see every brush stroke, every mark of color adds something to the painting. Okay, so I have the dark lines added. Now I have more red. I'm gonna add more red to my brush, and I'm gonna come in and do the points that are down here. Start in the middle of the space and then just come out and make the points look sharp along the edges. And you can do that on the left side and the right side. And then you can do it in between where there's an overlap, like where you have an opening between, say, the pinchers up here. You can do a line that shows it opens and closes. so that you have a shadow line up underneath. That adds some interest. You can also do it where you have colors or joints changing. You can do it with other colors. I'm picking up some blue now and coming in and just touching some of the places that we had painted red earlier. When I have a joint, I can just accent it. And you can see that really rounds out the shape. I'm gonna take a good bit of the darker blue and put it up under this joint and up under this one. You don't have to do it in every space, but the more you have fun with playing with the lines and the shapes and the colors, your oyster will, your crab will really have great color in it and interest. So I'm gonna wash out my brush and change over and go to a light blue now. So I'm gonna load up with white first and then add some blue to it so that I can come in and emphasize this area right in the front where we've got those, that middle section, where we've got that center area. So I'm gonna leave the rest of them red and I'm gonna emphasize those with blue right in the middle. And then in this inside part, I'm gonna go in and basically just do rub with the brush and start identifying the look of it being scratched or scrubbed up in the water. And I can pick up darks and lights and blues and greens. So if you've got a special color that you want to emphasize, you can definitely put it in there. I added some yellow ochre, but you can see how I just put a little paint on my brush and I'm using the whole width of the brush just to scrub in the area to make it look like that it is, or it has been in the water. And it's just bright and colorful and fun to look at. Okay, so now you can have the opportunity to continue to play with your colors and overlap and put different highlights and shades in. The last one I'm gonna do is gonna be making a color with white and yellow ochre and just a little bit of the red color so it goes a little bit on the fleshy side. And I'm gonna use that in just to accent some of the highlights that I would like to have on the places that are closest to the top of the canvas. And you can see that I'm just putting some, just pinches of color right on the top. Just pinches of color that are lighter, a little bit on the highlight side to bring out those areas. And then just as I evaluate, I just look and see where I need more of those lights or darks. I feel pretty good about the greens and the blues. Now I feel like we've got a good sense of the highlights going with the warm colors, with the peachy colors. And so now I think if we just make a little bit of an orangey red color, we can finish the painting. I'm taking the red, mixing a little bit of the orange with it, and making the pincher just pop out just a little bit with orange. Just a little bit. And then I think we have a very bright, colorful blue crab. Now that you have finished your project, we want to see your masterpiece. Please send us a picture either to our email at artcenterofwilmingtonisland@gmail.com or post to our Facebook page. Keep visiting our Facebook page and website to see the latest Art at Home kits. Thanks so much for supporting your neighborhood art studio.